All right. I think we're live now. I love it. I can't smoke in my house, and then I couldn't find my little vape pen, so I'm like, fuck, but it's all good. I'll soak it in from you guys. So, how have you guys been? Life's been kind of crazy for y'all lately. Are you getting
Freaking
better?
awesome. I mean, actually, I kind of want to start with that just after like what she said to kick that like about not being able to smoke weed.
That's crazy.
Like
No, it's
what?
just in the house. Just smoke
Just in
in
the
the house.
I know, but still, like in
I
any way, like.
know.
I might not sign that lease.
Well, I mean, just that we have really escaped a lot of the bullshit of the last 2 years because 6 years ago I bought 10 acres in the mountains of Arizona and said this is where I'm planting my flag and building my homestead. And maybe the biggest thing about escaping pandemics or the pandemic hysteria, COVIDism, is just knowing enough to not trust authority to not get the shots. Right? Maybe that's it. But did we ever have to worry about losing our jobs or like,
No.
like the social scene in Ash Fork, Arizona being shut down? Like, no.
That's the
No.
first thing I was grateful for was like, wow, I don't even have a part-time job to be worried about right now. Like I can't imagine the
You were able
fear.
to keep your normalcy. You were able to keep like
So,
your
like,
guys' normal going.
Basically 6 years ago, I started to scramble to build a life raft. And then I looked up like last week and was like, holy shit, we're like halfway out to sea already. Oh my God, we're surrounded by, oh my, yeah, okay, well, our rafts, that's it. It's all, that's all it gets.
It's okay. It's okay.
Yeah, shit
I
keeps
feel-
getting crazier and crazier. So it's good you're all out there and like away from it all.
Yeah, free of it.
Yeah, and traveling, it was weird getting to see it from state to state, like just how people were treating it differently. It's like the further east you get, the crazier the mandates and the restrictions and like, people look at you funny if you're not wearing a mask, like you're committing a moral sin, as opposed to Arizona. Like even if you walk into a doctor over here, they're like, you gotta put it on. We don't really care, but just all right. But it's so low key, even for the people that are following, the CDC guidelines. It's wild.
Yeah, I heard
Well,
Arizona is pretty good about it the whole time.
I know we could talk about like drugs and construction and all sorts of crazy shit, but I want to talk about politics.
Let's get right into it all.
I do want to say one deep thought because I haven't. It's been rattling around in my mind. It's kind of challenged my understanding of libertarianism in relationship to liberalism and conservatism as sort of neutral and in the middle because of what Joey just said. It's not the East Coast here. It really is. It's liberal and population dense areas, which already trend together anyway. But like we saw California, Oregon, Washington State, also very, very high rates of COVIDism.
Nevada's not, but Vegas is.
Right.
So,
yeah. So it makes me think, oh shit, maybe I was wrong to sort of dismiss conservatives as not having something at least like in principle in line with libertarianism, even though the Republican Party then is still at best the bullshit controlled opposition party, but that there is some value to the spectrum model, because up until this point in my life, I've always been like, no, fuck the left, fuck the right, we're in the middle, we're principled, we're fiscally conservative and socially awkward. I mean, socially
something like
and
that. Something like that.
Yeah, right. What was I lost? Yeah. Anyway, but I've genuinely thought we've been in the middle, but now kind of like rubber hitting the road in a big way. And fuck the Trump kids will have any kind of faith in that asshole. Especially if you're anti-vax, anti-mandate. Fuck him. Again, I hate to say I told you so, but it's been like I'm I'm literally tired of saying I told you so over the last 2 years. But no, it is COVIDism, and that particular strain of medical fear really does trend with modern American leftism, liberalism, and population centers. And I'm not excusing the statism of the right in any way. I'm just like, it really is a unique phenomenon.
You could watch The Divide. It really is.
And if you just say like one thing, I had friends calling me alt-right and all this past year, and I'm like, what? Like, no. Like,
We're all being called Democrats or Republicans, depending on who we're talking to.
America
right.
now more than ever before, and y'all need Jesus.
Diesels, diesel trucks.
Mike Jesus that deals the weed down the street. You need that Jesus.
Oh, that was good hopping into that. Yeah, even in Colorado, it was very much Denver, Boulder versus more rural areas. The rural, it's just like the density, like you said, that really does play a huge role in it. Just people are on top of each other, wanting to tell each other what to do, and then it just that like mentality spreads, and then they get in the politics and forcing it on people. And
I want to turn it back to lifestyle from that, because I asked on Twitter, and I was actually surprised by the response of my Twitter audience, that I said, is it better to fight tyranny directly and maybe win, lose, or die, or to elegantly sidestep it? And obviously these are very subjective terms. It's not like, I mean, and in order to answer this question, you have to make it situational. You have to define your terms. It's a very broad, deliberately subjective question, etc. But I think what we have done in sidestepping it in this lifestyle is actually more effective fighting, because what they want you to do is live in giant, disgusting piles of humanity where you're on top of each other, and a human deprived of adequate access to nature is an unhealthy human. And so when they have us piled into cities, we are in piles of unhealthy humans. You are not living your best self. You're not as healthy as you could be with that healthier environment, with a better soundscape of nature, of quiet, with access to fresh air, with produce that's untainted in so many ways. I could go on about all the cleanliness and health issues about that, but just saying I'm going to sidestep that. I'm not going to be subject to your fear.
We will not participate.
I know there's a time to fight, but Stefan Molyneux really hit me so many years ago when he said, the state's not going to end with a whimper, but with a yawn. What we know is the evil institution of the state is not going to end with a revolution, because it is based on the momentum of the weight of the public paradigm behind it that demands it. And by the time we go, hey, can we get rid of that institution? It's going to be like, oh yeah, of course, we already decided that it was kind of irrelevant, right? Well, you can decide now for yourself. Like, look, it's not that hard. And I'd rather be out here dancing in the woods, fighting in the streets.
And I'm sorry, my superpower of being able to turn the situation. Hi, Louise.
Yeah, so we have puppies. We have puppies.
Oh yeah, all the dogs good? Is everybody healthy and happy?
Yeah, this is Dylan and Louise. And when I got arrested in Colorado, we called them dogs. They're still puppies. Like,
They're not even a year old.
We called them. Come here. You want to be on camera? Louise, come sit out. Good girl. All right, say what you're gonna say.
Oh no. To your point, where the state's just going to kind of end in a yawn. I'm going to divert to my magical powers of being able to turn every conversation back to weed somehow. Yeah, with weed now, like just, oh gosh, going on 30 years ago now. But just 20 years ago, when I was in high school, you couldn't even bring up that topic, and there was no switch. There was no great revolution. Like there was no big thing that happened.
We just looked back and it was like, whoa, weed's like mostly legal.
Who cares now? And I think it's right. It'll be the same with any kind of tyrannical law.
Oh, the state's mostly irrelevant now. And you know what? Like for us, it already is like we win over here. Like choose freedom.
I know, it's so funny how people, like, especially like in Colorado, it's been like this forever. There are people who are like got into weed and never had to like wait on phone calls for like some, you know, dealer, and you're waiting all night, and like they don't even have to deal with that.
You have to wait in a grocery store parking lot with a phone and access to your daily.
Okay, Grandma.
What?
The war days.
So spoiled. Now I drive like 3 miles from my house, and it's like Willy Wonka world. You like walk in, and it's like I got everything in here. You know, it's hilarious.
It'll turn into that, and you're right about, you know, when is it best to fight and when is it best to sidestep, and is it a win move to sidestep? In this case, no. We're watching the decline, and you know, to be able to create this freedom that we have, and hopefully inspire others to understand. Yeah, you can just sell everything you own and go live in your car and start over again. Find a piece of land for less than you're paying for a month's worth of your rent, and just start building. Like that's great if people start taking that leap.
And I think like the whole risk assessment, like you want to be able to protect your thing as best as you can. And if you're out always like fighting all these other wars, you're weak. You can't protect your thing to the best ability. You know, that's how I've been. Because there's always people like, well, you guys, no one's doing anything, blah, blah. And I'm like, well, because everyone has their risk they're going to take or not, you know, and I'd rather build my thing and have a very strong like thing. And that's how I feel, at least.
I think I hate to, you know, play the card of my resume, but in terms of like fearless libertarian badass, like I don't think anybody's got me matched on credentials except Ian Freeman and Ross Ulbricht. And to be fair, even though Ulbricht did stuff of more significance and faced worse punishment, I think Ian and I have been beat on credentials for persistence and repeated okay, so Ross Ulbricht, you know, I don't want to say God rest his soul. We need a phrase for activists who are in custody.
POWs.
May God restore his freedom someday. But Ross Ulbricht is doing what, 2 years plus 10 for running a website, for running the underground crypto drug marketplace, the Silk Road, right? And Ian Freeman has done with the Shire Free Church similar crypto activism. He's done a lot of civil disobedience. And actually, I mean, I haven't beat with the bullshit military resume, which just means that I can be brave and stupid at the same time. Don't you forget it.
And everyone thanks you for your service. Get that little treat.
But yeah, so no, I need to finish the point. Like I think having volunteered for combat at my whole civil disobedience resume. My civil disobedience is not just, oh, he broke the law and made a video about it, or oh, he, you know, violated this regulation and blah blah. It's like I've done things like that too. Don't get me wrong. But then I've actively confronted. I've actively confronted the state. I've actively confronted police. I've actively stared at, like, I mean, even recently with the mushrooms episode in Saguache County, where Thelma and Louise got to do their first weekend in custody.
Oh, poor babies.
Yeah, dog was a, God rest his soul, for Baloo, also civil disobedience activist dog who had a flashbang grenade thrown at him and did some time in puppy jail in Texas too.
He saw more than most people in their lifetime. I think
my dogs do more for freedom than most people who call themselves libertarian activists. Go fuck yourself. Yeah, but I think I've got, like, even recently, and for people who don't know the story, just to sum up what I mean, is I was driving through Saguache County, Colorado, got pulled over for no tags, no insurance, no driver's license, because that's how I roll. and got an illegal
No
search.
papers?
And my life is like I realized this afterwards. My life is like a continuous unintentional Fourth Amendment audit. Privacy.
Really is.
You'll probably find something, and then I'll probably fuck you for it because you failed the audit. But yeah, I had mushroom capsules and basically stared down the state from a 6x9 cell for 12 days until they backed off and dismissed the case. So I'd like, it's not the gutsiest, but it was pretty. It was kind of a crowning achievement in a lot of ways of my civil disobedience activism, because I didn't even realize till afterwards I was facing 8 to 24 years.
Yeah, now the whole time he was in there, myself and most of the people involved were like, he's all in. He's got to know he's facing 20 years. He's all in, and he's fucking right, nothing to lose. And meanwhile, he had no idea. He was
well,
just standing on.
I don't know if you guys want to. I don't want to get too sidetracked on that. I want to make the bigger point though. Like, I think a lot of people can fairly accuse other activists reasoning for specific strategies of cowardice, and I have built and risked a reputation over fuck, how long has it been now? I count the anniversary of my activism March 19, 2007, when we did the march on the mock combat patrol in DC. So about 15 years, coming up on 15 years.
Yeah.
15 years of what I think of as full-time activism. And I've built and lost organizations. This is like a pirate looks at 40. The activist looks at 40. I just turned 40 years old too, so it's like it's kind of
Had like 50 lifetimes in 40 years, basically.
$800, but I spent it, so I made enough money to buy Miami, but I spent it all. I put all my money back into activism in my book, into touring, into campaigns and whatnot. But I've short of violence and direct sabotage, but I've done stuff putting my body in the way of things. I've done physical resistance with cops. Like
I think you do that in most of the videos.
No, like in Saguache County, like actually physically,
you did that in Philly. You held your arms up and you would not let them move them. Like,
yeah, that's pretty weak. I mean, like when I was in jail in New Orleans, I hid under a bunk and myself and said, if you're going to take me out of here, you're going to break my arms. And they tried and gave up. And I was trying to get a piece of paper. I was trying to but I was ready to do that in Saguache County too. It's funny because we were watching this Pirates documentary, and there's this pretty epic scene where it's built at Bellamy's, right? Black Bart Bellamy's, pirate crew.
Oh yes, I know.
Shocks their victims by all stripping naked and carrying swords and guns, and they're just like, holy fucking shit, full of insane dicks out for pirates.
So they're not even like,
and she was
they're not even great fighters, but they end up, getting all the treasure because everybody's like, these motherfuckers.
Yeah. But that's part of why they let me out, because I was doing naked yoga.
Oh, love it. Yeah, are you off the hook for everything with all that? Is it all over? Or are they still trying stuff?
Maybe.
Can you not talk about it because it's an ongoing thing?
And afterwards with a notice that I refused. This is actually a pretty cool part of it, like ending to the story, is that a sheriff came to our driveway and texted me and said he has papers to give me from some people in Colorado. Public service, is this service? And he said yes. So can you tell me what it's for? He said no. I said, well, then politely fuck off. Like, I didn't say, I was texting him like, no. I said, tell them, like, they can't tell me what they're demanding my presence for. It could have been some follow-up shit. And I told him, hey, if it turns into a warrant, please have the courtesy to text me. I'll turn myself in. Don't come on my property. But I mean, what it comes down to with that, with the mushrooms, is that anytime government comes at you with a criminal charge, they're saying you will say that you're guilty, you will accept responsibility, or you will plea and take punishment Otherwise, if you do not, we will assemble a jury of your peers and convince them that you are guilty and get their permission to fuck you harder. And when it comes to mushrooms, the mushrooms themselves have reached, at least in Colorado, certainly, more than 1 in 12 potential jurors. So fuck you, anybody in government trying to enforce that shit against a veteran, bringing psilocybin capsules to other veterans as part of an anti-suicide nonprofit program here. While I'm not only a combat veteran, card-carrying, disabled VA, all that bullshit, but I'm also a registered member of the Oklahoma Native American Church, and that's like basically I've done all my paperwork and my homework on the religious exemption, and I will play that card if I have to. And it took them 12 days, and they backed down. But my point is, like, I see the value in those things. I see the righteousness in that confrontation, and I see the value in the attention to the message, but it's not how we're going to win. It's not. None of that. It's a cherry on top, icing on the cake, pretty symbolism, something to motivate people.
But those
But it's
cops
not
know that
necessary.
you are in the 1 percentile of people who are actually going to be bold enough to do that. So they've brushed you off, I have to safely say.
I want everybody to have it, though. Everybody,
Yeah.
you can't have. I understand that I have a huge amount of privilege in this area, not just because I look white. I'm half Jewish and half German, so myself. I look white. I'm white. Whatever. I don't care. Bullshit. Identity politics. It's part of my heritage. Whatever. That I'm fit. I'm trained in hand-to-hand combat by the Marine Corps. I stand up tall. I'm not a victim, and I'm pretty muscular, and I'm extremely healthy. I'm not dependent on any drugs or pharmaceuticals. So, oh, you're gonna lock me up? Fuck you! I am going to stare you down until you back off. It's a lot easier for me than most people.
Yeah, for me, it came because my father was Baltimore City Police for 23 years. So I have never had a problem dealing with cops because Dad taught me my rights. He taught me the reality of the fact that there's a pretty good chance the cop you're talking to is a shady son of a bitch, not me, not with my values. And I never had a problem with it, but it's very different. Like I couldn't react the same way I does. There's another inherent danger.
I want to be like John McAfee when I grow up, and she's already more like him in that sense of like authority just doesn't register the way it does. I'm still as good as I've been at facing down authority. I'm still deprogramming bits and pieces left that she like never had.
And I picked them up after being harassed over weed for years, and that's the way I got all those charges dropped. Was just nope, jury trial. Well, how about that? Nope, I will wait for a jury trial. Well, how about that? That sounds great. Fuck you. Let's talk to the neighborhood about it because it's just weed. It's just weed,
Yeah.
And yeah, you just have to weigh that out in whatever situation you're at. Think what would 12 strangers think about this situation? Would they side with me or would they side with cops? And make the decision. It's not scary to go to jury trial. And 9 times out of 10, they don't want to make the expense. Let's be real. You've already cost them too much money for whatever non.
Yeah, it's such a tiny little town down there, and everything's like
even this. It's fun, and it's empowering. And okay, Adam legalized mushrooms for himself and can say we're growing, giving them away here, and that's very nice. But this is still in the unnecessary realm of confrontation.
Yeah.
And I really want to exemplify what I've been evolving to mentally, worldview, and psychologically for a long time in my lifestyle and activism. And a big part of that is understanding that the progress towards a voluntary society is not revolutionary so much as evolutionary, and that without peace there can be no real growth. You cannot grow in soil that is always being turned over, and that is what we need for humanity to progress to the next level. And we can do it based on these principles, based on these values. We can be ready to confront. And there can be times when that is righteous and of a high value payoff. But those moments are few and far between. And it's far more important to live your values than to fight and die for them.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. And know that shit
And
might
we've-
suck for a minute and be like, accept that. Like, you know, shit might suck but it's worth it.
Yeah.
Well, this is so less compared to fighting.
I mean, growing pains are a real thing. Humans are experiencing. And I can't imagine that it feels good to be born. Like, I don't know if you have children, but
I remember that day. It was pretty awesome.
I mean, they come out screaming things all of a sudden they're for the first time, like just this sensory overload. I cannot imagine that's a good feeling. I hear the dad dance already. But then he gets in mom's arms, like comes out of the cocoon. It's evolved. It goes through that quick pain, those growing pains, to find comfort and compassion in the arms of its parents. And I feel like that's kind of where we're at right now with society. And we've evolved so much technologically. You know, we're not burning people at the stake in the town hall anymore, which was shit. That was just 200 years ago. It was not that long ago that
it's not happening again yet. Just kidding.
Progress is
it is. Really, if the psychopaths want to get us, they'll drop a bomb. They're not even going to go through the trouble of building the fire, and the bomb's not going to be torture. It's going to be easy death. We've already evolved to a certain point that the rest is just going to take, like you said, peace and compassion, standing by those principles of being ready.
I just want to live until I'm able to upload my brain into a giant robot.
Oh, you want to do that? Do you want to do that? Do you want to do that?
So I'm trying to live. I take my COVID vitamins and my wooden COVID injection needle here, and I take lots of vitamins, and I try to I live very low risk actually. But I do though. Like I really like I used to ride motorcycles. My thing when I got back from Iraq wasn't riding motorcycles; it was wrecking motorcycles. I wrecked 4 bikes. I had 4 motorcycles. It was like my adrenaline. They were like, we're not getting you. It's gonna suck for a while. Yeah, there's not as much adrenaline. But
did you get hurt in those wrecks? Did you get hurt?
Not too bad. I have some road rash here. It's 2 little dark streaks. Like 20 years ago, I stopped though. Not 20 years. What was the last one? Activism stopped me, I think. Yeah, I mean, and that was 15 years ago when I
started getting hit in the head with my top instead, right?
Yeah, right. No, what's yeah, I mean, I have said that I have, and it's definitely true. I have more trauma from my interaction with cops than from combat.
Yeah,
My jail, kind of the jail time and stuff.
I think that's what we're turning that corner too. Because if you ask the average person, they'll admit that now that they've had more traumatic interactions with cops
than positive ones.
Even the average person that's never seen the inside of a cell, never had more than a speeding ticket, they've still had some sort of negative, harsh interaction with police officers, and people just aren't going to accept that anymore. We were already out in the street screaming about it at the end of 2019, if you remember, and then all of a sudden, mainstream media came out, scared everybody with COVID, put them all inside.
Hong Kong is popping off.
Yeah, France, the
yellow vest
protest.
movement.
Australia was on fire with just this "Give us our freedom." It was just freedom was ringing everywhere around the globe. And then they stopped us with fear, but everybody still has that, that core of the end of 2019 inside of them. So I'm excited to see what happens at the end of COVID. But we're all supposed to be afraid of AIDS next now, right?
Yeah, the HIV. Everyone's gonna get the HIV.
South Park said funny, and now it's cured, but everybody's getting it. Are we supposed to?
It's like weak AIDS, though, right?
Yeah, the thing I read that like this actually happened. It was in Australia in October 2020, and they were testing a vaccine, and people were, after getting it, they were testing positive for HIV, and like they were like, apparently it wasn't exactly HIV, but it was still triggering their body to trigger that. And I was like, well, what the fuck is it doing to their bodies, you know? And so they scrapped it. But I'm like, okay, yeah, but it could happen to any of them then, in my opinion. So
HIV. I heard an antidepressant commercial today, and the first side effects may include suicidal thoughts or actions.
God.
What? Like what? How do you even make that? I'm depressed. This may make me kill myself, or it may make me happy. And this is the pharmaceutical world we live in.
It's so nuts. It's so gross. And then you see ads for medicines that help with bad side effects from other medicines, and it's just like, oh my God, it's just like a spiral down to this crazy world. I'm not on medicines yet either, and I'm like, thank God, because it's just once you start, like they started kids at like I remember Ritalin was like the big thing in middle school. Like,
if it were for Propecia, I'd be even more.
I get it. I get like hair and wanting to keep it. I get it. Like
I'm on, and I've done. Because the only reason that's probably a problem is because I've had so much processed food over my lifetime before I was all woke and shit. And I've had immunotherapy injections for allergies to reconfigure my immune system. But I got to think, I got to blame my mom for, like me in like a sanitary childhood or some vaccines that threw off my immune system, because the kind of allergies that I had were not natural. Like walk through a field of grass and just not be able to breathe while I'm just dripping snot down into my mouth. Like,
oh yum.
Nasal congestion, hay fever type allergies. Yeah, and I did shots at home. I gave myself little shots in the thigh. So I think sadly we're all products of modern medicine, saving us from the bullshit perils of industrial life.
I can't knock pharmaceuticals. There's a place for them.
Yeah, sure.
Right. Just when they started selling them like a fucking pushy salesman, and then the whole fascism thing. Now kind of a little too far.
90s, like I remember as a child, my doctor never prescribed stuff. Like it was like, hey, Tylenol, Advil, lots of orange juice and water. If it gets worse, we'll call it an antibiotic. Like that was it. Like
I feel like the guy in the meme with the veins popping out of his forehead, because I have to play my libertarian nerd card here and say it's because of intellectual property. And if we never allowed that shit and patenting drugs, none of it would be a problem. IP.
I can't argue that. And you know property. What? Do you think they're pushing this vaccine so hard because people are maybe breaking away from the programming of big pharma? Like, you think that they've been losing money, and that may be a little bit of the push behind
to weaken the immune system?
Behind this free vaccine. They're making money off of it, right? The taxpayer is paying for all the free vaccines that are getting distributed across. So that money's going into the hands of pharmaceutical companies. They're not just passing them out to the government.
Yeah, Pfizer has like 40 billion extra in profits already just this year.
Just gained so much respect for the banking industry because they just lie and steal from us, as opposed to the pharmaceutical company, which lies to us to poison us to steal from us. And it's like, you could have just skipped the poison.
Steal from me. Why do you make
and just stolen from us? Like, is it fucking assholes? Like,
they must still need us. They must still need us to some extent to have us controlled to some extent. I don't know.
But it is, and you just said it. It comes down to control. That's all it is.
Fuck that shit.
I think through COVID, people are even more realizing that you don't even really have control of your own life. So how could these people dare to assume that they have control of yours?
Yeah, they have no virtue. It's like that Proudhon quote where he just starts listing all this shit. He's like, he doesn't say this, I paraphrase. He's like, these motherfuckers don't have like any virtue. They don't have any, like anything to be ruling over you, And it's like, damn straight. It's true. They're fucking losers.
So I get most of my news from memes now. Thank you, Graham. Thank you at Vol Memes. Thank you at Times. There's a handful of great ones. Thank you, David Avocado Wolf. handful of other great, mostly meme channels. But it's actually a good source of news because if a meme is interesting enough, we'll be like, wait, what headline is this referring to?
Yeah.
Anyway, there's a point to all that. If you don't like honks, you shouldn't have created Clown World. No, that wasn't it. It was that when they started making memes during the COVID, and these types of memes aren't original, but during COVIDism, where it said, Pfizer corporate lobbyist, former head of the FDA, and it like showed all the, and it's like you see their faces, and one of the pivotal stories for me as a I only refer to myself as a journalist when I feel like being an asshole. No, but as a journalist, one of the critical stories in my understanding of COVID was the one about BlackRock and Vanguard. And there are these two major corporate holding companies that own something like over half of the mainstream media and over half of big pharma in the United States. And I don't give a fuck about the metrics. But the point is, when you see those memes and it's got like, these are all these faces and they connect to all these government positions and these corporate positions, and this conflict of interest is so obvious, it really boils down to just a handful of people. Most Congress members are just fucking putzes. Really, they're not that they're dumb, but in the game they're tools. A handful of them are players. In the Senate, probably most of them are players. In terms of the corporate world, we're talking about a few hundred evil assholes. In terms of managers of the federal bureaucracy, the ones who call, not every last FBI field agent will be an asshole, or every corrupt cop, but the managers who call missions and set budgets and set policy. Like there are more of us even who get it than there are of them. It's the masses in the middle that don't care that make what they do possible. It's kind of nice to like. So thank you memes for based on the evil for me and quantifying it.
Memes and science. I was trying to look up the guy's name, but yeah, they're doing math. They quantified and figured out that the world's controlled by like 5 people right now. Like the media is controlled by like 6 people. And those
it's
people
more than that, though,
somehow connected
but
to
it's
banks,
it's a few dozen board of directors, like
companies,
where they call the shots and strategize together.
Like 5 different families. Like there's this world.
It depends how you want to cut it. It's kind of subjective and speculative at that level. But you're right. You could look at it. And
it's easy to believe, though. It's super easy to believe.
It's terrible.
And if you don't think for yourself, someone will do it for you.
That's true. And it's crazy because there's so many people who fall for that shit, and I know people like you. It's just like seeing so many people fall this last 2 years. It's just like, what? Like, it's so much easier to think on this on a totally not the way they all went. It was so weird.
It was hard to watch, wasn't it? Like, I saw friends just fall down rabbit holes that, knowing them for 20 years or longer, my whole life, just like, are you really this scared?
Like rabbit holes?
Like we skipped school and went and smoked drugs in the lunchroom during, and you're scared of this now. Like, we did all this bold stuff. Is like, what all of a sudden you're concerned about your part-time job at Rite Aid, and that just takes precedence above, and I'm killing your grandma like that. The South Park episode was not far off. They never are. They're pretty dead on and only a little bit satirical, right? But it was hard. Families aren't talking to each other anymore. Friends aren't talking to each other anymore. I
got off basically all but one in my immediate family, and COVID wasn't the reason, except really for one of them. But it was definitely an accelerator and a primary aggravator over the last 2 years, highlighting differences. But the last time I went and visited family, I literally got sick with a head cold, and I very rarely get sick at all. As much as I travel and shake hands, and even when I'm out touring, like it get sick once or twice a year at most,
maybe,
and usually pretty mild. And this time I got like a bad head cold, and it's being around these people who, and I hate to describe my family this way, but a lot of them just don't really value life enough to take care of their bodies, and they are willing to pass off the challenge that is the glorious responsibility of taking charge of your own life to an external authority if they can, and say, well, I followed the government, I did 30-minute sessions this week, so I'm good, and I ate this many calories. And it's like,
There's going to be commercials about class action lawsuits for the mask companies in 20 years. Just watch. There's going to be something with that, and everybody's going to, well, I did what you told me to, and since I listened to you and I was wrong, and it goes against every bit of common sense I should have as a human being, now you owe me money. I mean, that's the wave that we're on. We're on the pharmaceutical wave right now, unfortunately. To knock anybody who got stuck up in the pharmaceutical wave, much more dangerous than the mask wave, I'll say. But
Yeah.
hopefully people start using that common sense and trusting themselves. We don't need masters. Not
no,
No, but
Matt,
they've been trained like that since elementary school. You're trained to just fucking listen to the government, do what the government says, you know. And it's like, shit. I moved out when I was young because I didn't want to follow my parents' rules, and I was like, I know I'm gonna be broke, but I don't want to follow your fucking rules, so I'm moving out. And my life was better for it in the end, you know.
I learned how to cleverly sidestep the rules.
Yeah, it's the risk assessment thing. You can kind of assess like which rules you can kind of, you know, get around and whatnot. But well, how are you guys doing? Are you falling asleep?
no, it's early still for us. We go to bed pretty early. Well, it's only 8 o'clock here.
Yeah.
8:09. He's just so high. How are the dogs? Because which 2 dogs did you guys bring to Colorado to that party?
Oh, it was amazing.
That was a great party. That was like after.
We got COVID from that.
I don't think it.
I went around and asked everybody at the party to spit in my mouth, and they did. So I'm pretty sure I got
Especially Nick Sarwark. Just kidding.
that party.
That
Oh, you're talking going way back. No, we
Way
went
back.
to. That was
in like May of last year.
Yeah, it was in the summer.
Anniversary. Yeah, August.
yeah.
That was fun. No, we went to a We Are Change. Was it We Are
Oh
Change?
yeah.
Hosting.
Was it the concert? Was it the like clothing drive thing recently? Not too long ago, at least.
That really, I don't know. I don't think he did his weird change, but it was that.
It was great. It was
there's
12-hour long
Yeah,
gathering.
you guys should have told me you were gonna go, and I live in Arvada, so like I was. Yeah, so like I know all about the shit. I've been meeting the We Are Change people and some of Johnny's friends and stuff. It's been pretty cool.
What's that novel where they go with a time machine into the future, and humanity split into 2 different species? There's the like fluffy fat ones that live on the surface, and then the like skinny bug-eyed ones that live on.
I don't know.
The
like
time machine, the warlocks, and then like the people on the surface.
Those
WP.
Yes. So humanity splits evolutionary down
Sure.
like 2 different forks, right? And that's like a very obvious, easy concept. That event in Colorado made me think, like, if humanity forks, it's going to be the people who are healthy and fit and smoke pot and pass joints and go to dance parties like that, where everybody's passing out Molly and LSD and passing around COVID and handling it like fucking adults, like healthy human beings. And then they're going to be the people who are like walking around on ventilators with, a vaccine release patch on their forehead and artificial limbs and crutches and just.
It's gonna be home in a breathing tube, operating their avatar.
Fuck that.
On their smartphone.
Yeah.
That's what it's gonna turn into. Like.
Oh, they're gonna be in the Matrix. They're gonna be a little pink.
The Meta.
Pink goo pods. Yeah, Meta. Meta will start making. Watch like shitty dystopian prediction. Meta will start making beds, and then they'll have you sleep in them. 20 we'll go from 8 hours a day to 10 to 12 to 4, and the next thing you know, oh shit, you're in Meta 24 hours
All
a day.
day.
And then they inject the pink goo around you.
Nobody knows because you're happy in your Meta. That's not. That's
It's not,
not.
it's not that far off. It's not like crazy anymore to think these things.
They don't have to catch us and actually put us in pot. They're gonna trick enough, and then they're just
Yeah,
gonna send
they're gonna want
robot
to go
dogs to
there.
kill the rest of us. Right?
Oh yeah, the fucking robot dogs.
He doesn't have his barcode. He doesn't have a barcode. What's the line from Idiocracy? He doesn't have the tattoo. He doesn't have the tattoo. He doesn't have the tattoo.
Yeah.
It's weird how that movies come to fruition, isn't it? When did that movie come out?
Idiocracy?
Yeah, late 90s.
Yeah, late 90s.
Has it been that long? I caught onto it kind of late.
They saw it already. But
It's the most underrated, most libertarian movie of all time. Like, it really is. I don't want to like pick apart all the themes because I haven't seen it in a few weeks.
Too funny.
It was my attention how libertarian a movie Ghostbusters is.
That's a stretch.
4 dudes fighting the state. The state's trying to stop them from saving the world.
Private security. They're like a private company, private security.
They get thrown in jail a couple times throughout both movies.
And it's always they're the good guys. It's never like they deserve to go to jail.
Yeah, I mean, in the government, and it's very, very.
Well, we just saw the more recent Ghostbusters. It didn't have any.
No, it didn't have any.
It was more sentimental and personal than social statement like that. You want to read that into the old version.
We need to watch the Terminator series again, just to kind of like as training videos. We have on the verge of the cyborg war.
I'd rather watch the Pirates of the Caribbean series.
That's true. You can be learned like if you go pirating, you can be pretty prepared and ready to fight. Like that's a good way to be too.
I mean, the pirates were mostly war veterans who said "fuck the crown" and liberated slaves. And so, like, yeah, I want to do that, and I want to steal from the crown too. But the best I can do now is a VA disability, and well, I shouldn't say, there are other things we like to do that we can't really talk about, but they're pretty petty. I have a fantasy of being able to take down an Amazon boxcar on one of the trains that rolls through town here, like just like roll up with a truck, because you can wear masks now, and that doesn't look efficient. You can roll up with a truck without who has a truck without a license plate? And have a few dudes with box cutter or bolt cutter just run up, and you get to open the door on a shipping container to start throwing boxes into the back of the truck and take off. I don't like that because it's taking Amazon packages that are already marked for individual consumption, and so you're creating a pain in the ass for individuals. It's unnecessary. But so much has been stolen from us that needs to be taken back, and I think I've got most of it. But let me just be clear that I have very little respect for. Did I say very little? No, I have no respect for any claims to property made by the state in the United States of America. None of them are legitimate. They are false custodians of the people's property that they have stolen from us one way or another. And as long as anyone is never claiming for themselves more than their fair share, I support stealing every last penny from the federal government until they can't print anymore, because it costs them 1.2 cents to make a penny anyway. So fuck them. But yeah, no, they don't.
I wouldn't call it stealing. I would call it reclaiming.
Yeah, it's not
yours.
Stealing.
And
you can't steal it if it's stolen.
If you just online, there's so many legal, legitimate ways to get your tax.
Yeah, everybody should be. So Joey is good at this. Everybody and I've
Robin Hooding.
Everybody be on the maximum benefits that they can get away with government. And some people will say that it's fraud, and I would say it's not, especially if you're taking back less than what has been taken from you.
Yeah.
And no one can say at this point, with the value of human labor, what it should be, that in terms of potential every day, more is being taken from you than they would ever give back to an individual and individual benefits. I'm not advocating for corporate welfare. I'm not advocating for size.
For welfare fraud either, but most people qualify.
If you have qualms about taking it for yourself, you are still wrong to let government keep that money and not take it and give it to someone truly in need or put it towards a good cause. If you can sign up for welfare and get $1,000 a month and you think that's wrong and you feel selfish and greedy doing it, you still should do it so that government doesn't have that money and then give it to charity.
Yeah, if you really feel like you don't want that money, take it and go feed the homeless in your neighborhood. Do something with it then. Filter it back into your community because it's being stolen from your community by means of taxes every single day. And nobody's immune. I mean, even somebody who was born on the streets and grew up in homelessness and say they're still shopping at 7-Eleven. They're paying taxes. They're getting nothing in return, a lot of them. Food stamps, they're barely getting housing. We've got no programs for these people. The cops are harassing them, throwing them in jail, costing the taxpayers that aren't them more money. It's ridiculous. I don't even think that the best mathematician in the world could sit down and quantify the amount of money that's actually taken in time and actual goods from each individual American.
And in terms of the ethics of dishonesty is only a problem insofar as it is being used to support an act of aggression. If you're using it to reclaim property that has been stolen or in defense of yourself, you absolutely should use it. And in terms of, hey, something has been stolen from you, you can punch your attacker you can kill your attacker and take back what's been stolen and everything else and cost a life and be very destructive. You can punch them and distract them with pain and take it back, or you can deceive them with a lie and go, look, a plane, and grab it back and be much more elegantly on your way without chaos or disruption. And when it comes to what's been stolen from us by government, don't leave any money on the table. Don't make their job any easier than it has to be. And take that money and buy Bitcoin.
I don't know.
Once you've enough gold and silver to live off for a year.
They've got their eyes on Bitcoin
and land and land.
Crypto's not safe now. I'm not.
Have
you heard this?
Yeah,
there's some of them.
Biden said he was going to do something with it, get his nose in on it or something.
There may be a major upheaval, but nothing that I have seen as a threat to the crypto market as a whole really challenges the fundamental demand for crypto and the value in the market networks. It might cost.
So it might switch currency.
It might cost a flipping. Yes, there might be, between Bitcoin maximalism and altcoin fans, I'm really an agnostic. I know the arguments for both, and
so it is a religion.
Yeah, but Bitcoin maximalists believe that it's all Bitcoin at the end, everything else is a shitcoin, right? And they make a lot of powerful arguments for the first to market advantage and the practicality of sticking with it, and that every functionality of every other coin can be built onto the Bitcoin blockchain. But if that market is sufficiently manipulated, or that blockchain is somehow compromised, even if through legal means primarily, it may be that drives to another, the market to another coin. It may be that another and wins the market that way.
I never get a handle of it.
But no, I think it's an important economic vote. You should never. Buying metals is savings. Buying crypto is an investment, and they need to be thought of differently based on the risk profiles, and they're both completely unique.
That's fair. That's an easy way to grasp it, for my mind.
But when you invest, you should invest conscientiously. So I spent all my $5 Bitcoins on DMT on the Silk Road back in 2009. I was developing the market. That's how I did it. Yeah, I spent a lot of bitcoins when they were between like $3 and $15 on the Silk Road back in the day, which was a Wednesday, by the way.
With the ones
Oh, that's crazy to think about that. Yeah, what year was that then? Was that Silk Road days?
I started that when I was living in Virginia. When I was in an apartment right after losing the TV show, so it would have been 2010. Yeah, 12 years. 2000. No, wait, 2011. It was 2010. I had the TV show. Late 2011, early 2012. I started doing that, and then I went to jail. And then when I got out of jail, Bitcoin was $800 or so, and I day traded crypto for a while. And over a period of
in jail.
when I got out, it saved my ass actually.
Believe it.
But when Bitcoin was about $800 each, I was day trading in between the 8 major altcoins or 7 major altcoins on BTC-E, and I had like $5,000, and I turned into about $10,000 over 2 weeks just riding the trends like that. The swings aren't that big anymore. Like there was a time when like that was an interesting niche.
People do that with the stock market, though.
Yeah, but even with the stock market, but the thing is, even with the stock market now, it's all auto trades and margin calls, like and trading bots that play it so that the margins are much tighter. The day trader is much more a manager of algorithms than someone instinctively following the market. But it's all bullshit. Like it's not like I don't want to say it's all bullshit because I understand the you know
the reality of money.
No, the market analysis of the value of trading in terms of setting price points and being expressions of supply and demand and allocating resources and things like that. The Austrian analysis. I'm not like entirely against it, but I think that without the fiat currency, or what a lot of Austrian amateurs like myself miss, is that the relevance of the stock market, the relevance of day trading would be much less significant if you had a sound monetary system. But if you had a sound society, chasing margins and ruining your life to stare at a computer screen would be such a dumb, value losing proposition for the individuals involved that it wouldn't really be a thing. Like we have the industrial capacity to meet human needs in terms of everything we're capable of several times over for food, energy, water, shelter, clothing, entertainment, electricity, et cetera, medical care, like all of those things, drugs, like if everybody had that mushrooms, who the fuck is going to be a day trader? Like, who the fuck is going to be a cop? Who's going to be a politician? Fuck you. Like, and what's really being robbed from us is that exponential growth and productivity has been made linear. It has been flattened. And we're on the verge of like, they can't hold us, they can't suppress it any longer. And back to what you were saying at the beginning about like COVID policy, it's one of my biggest epiphanies in jail, aside from talking to God for the first time, was that not that we're on the edge, on the precipice of things potentially getting worse. It's that what we're seeing in COVID policy, the obscene concentrations of wealth, and the crackdown on civil liberties, the general medical tyranny, the censorship, especially when you think about censorship. It's fucking desperation. They're desperate. And it's because they can't hold us down and siphon off this exponential value that has been the gift of intelligent life to humanity, but especially clearly exponential in the industrial and post-industrial era.
Damn. That's actually a good spot to leave on. It's been an hour if you guys want to leave on that.
Yeah, all right. And with that, yeah.
But we should do you guys want we could do this like regularly, like once a month, catch up, let you just like go.
Wait, we'll do it once a month if you start partying with us here.
Yeah.
Friday once when we do it in person, we do mushrooms together. is the most important thing about psychedelics, and this is my advice to all the children in the audience: do more drugs. Make sure they're the good, healthy ones. Do psychedelics. Do drugs that expand your mind in a safe way. That give you confidence in your consciousness and your spirituality and your identity. But particularly, do psychedelics that give you a positive, overwhelming sense that everything is right in the universe. Every atom is in its place. Every subatomic particle, every quark, every bit of the fabric of existence, we are all one, and everything is exactly as it should be in every moment of existence, including now, 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 now. I'll stop. But you get the point.
I love it.
Love every last bit of it.
You just gotta soak it in, right? I love it. All right. Well, thank you guys, and have a good rest of your night, and good night to everybody watching. Bye.